Cool. Well, it's 12 o'clock. This is an open Q&A session today, so I don't have any kind of pre-canned topics to go through. In addition to that, there's a winter storm advisory, and I got the note that I had to pick my son up 2 hours early from school, so I changed the time for this one to a half an hour from an hour. So might as well just jump right in. Does anybody have any questions or things that they would like to go through? We'll open it up.
I got a question, Bill, actually, if
Sure.
nobody else has got one.
Yeah, you got time.
And I was just wondering, do you have any experience or know how to create jar files from the WSDLs from an org, like specifically like the enterprise WSDLs and the partner WSDLs, how to make those into jars?
No, I have no experience
Okay.
doing that. I'm sure I could fumble through it. What's the use case, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I actually using some Ant scripts to automatically generate some permission sets. So the jar files, from what I understand, and I haven't done it before. Apparently, it's been used previously at my company, but of course, how it goes is that the people who created it are no longer
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So trying to figure this one out, but pretty much how it's supposed to work is that the Ant scripts are supposed to just automatically generate these permissions sets based off of text files, and apparently it uses these enterprise and partner jars that are created from the WSDLs from an org to be able to just automatically create those permission sets. So
yeah. Um, is this something that uh, it needs to create the permission sets like in a client org or like some other org, or is it in one
yes,
org that this is all managed in?
no, yeah, it's for a client org, so we can use
Okay,
it across a whole bunch of different orgs if we need to.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with that. One thing that I am working on right now, with our managed package that we have on the App Exchange, there's some kind of post install steps that we have to do that is specific to the client, for their use case. So for example, out of the box, we'll support the opportunity object, but if they want to configure our app to work on projects or, some other object, there's steps we have to take to create, various settings, like custom settings or, and, until we migrate it to Lightning components, we have Visual Force pages that has to get created in some cases. So one of the things that we were exploring is actually how to do that via Apex, right? And actually give them like a configuration wizard where like you said, your permission set data is stored in a text file. This is actually stored in an Apex class so that, they click a button and it would create that permission set. Now, I don't know if that's even remotely practical, and I'm sure you just got to figure out how to get this one to work. But yeah, that's what we're looking at right now for that use case where we need to create metadata, for a specific customer, after the installation.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing, just kind of creating these permission sets to be able to work with um, different what's it called, ERPs and all that. So like we use Financial Force a lot, so that's what
Yeah,
we building those different permission sets for those different objects is what we're doing. Just trying to, like I said, they have this automated way that's done,
yeah,
but however, whoever created it doesn't really didn't really leave a how to. So
yeah.
trying to work through that.
Well, I hope you can report back on that one if you're able to figure that out. I'd be interested to see how that works. I should have asked, does anybody else on the call have experience with that as far as creating jar files through WSDL-based jar files to help with metadata deployment? Anybody familiar with that? You never know, so I figure I'll throw it out there. But yeah, if once you get that figured out, let me know. And if you ever wanted to set up a time to kind of fumble through it together, I'd be more than happy to do so. Um,
Awesome.
It's been a while since I've used Ant. Since migrated everything over to VS Code for all of our development, I don't think I've touched Ant in a long time, years. So yeah, well, great. So unfortunately, I wish I could help you there. I don't think I can help you there. But for those of you who have joined recently or in the last few minutes here, today is an open Q&A for office hours, so no set agenda, no speaker. And in addition, we have a winter storm advisory, so I got to duck out here at 12:30 Eastern. So I got to go pick up my son at school. So that being said, does anybody have any other questions or anything that they wanted to go through? Open forum, whatever you got. Uh, Carl, you had a question about Salesforce errors. I would love to look at the Salesforce errors from your work. If you want to paste them in there or share your screen, whatever you're comfortable with. Let's see. Now, just to get this here so that everybody can see this. Um,
I'd be happy to share the screen too if you want.
Yeah. So this is here. Let me do this. Let's see. Let me hide all the secret squirrel stuff here so you guys don't see this. All right. So let me share. You guys are screen 2 today. Oh, I got a bunch
Thanks,
of people.
Timothy. Yeah, I love the hat too. This is my wannabe ranger hat, so that keeps my goal in view at all times.
Nice. All right. So this is the error that we see. So this is let's see. So list index out of bounds. So that's a common error that we can walk through. And then the other one was cannot insert update entity first exception. Okay, so that one I might need a little bit more details for the second error. But for the first error, this is definitely one that we could review. And you guys can see my screen okay, right? Is it zoomed okay where you can actually read what's going on here? All right, so think of it like this. Probably the best thing I can do here. Let's go into Excel. So for those of you that might not be familiar with development, right? Essentially, you have the concept of an array, right? It's just a list of items. So for example, if I go here, if we had an array, and just to make it clear where we're working here, I'm just going to put a border around this. If you had an array on this row, this is our, my array, whatever we call it. You have slots, and they're numbered. And just to make it completely confusing for people getting started, they're numbered starting at 0, right? So we don't start at 1, we start at 0. So if you imagine the slots here are like this, and that would actually be a 10, and that would be an 11. Okay, so that's our array. These are the different positions in our array. So let's just say that we had like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, whatever it is, all the way until the end. So we have all those slots filled up, right? Now, if in your code you had something that said, okay, give me whatever's in slot 4, right? So if you said like my array slot number 4, what that's going to equal is I, right? That letter I. Here, let me make that a little bit bigger, and also let me let everybody in that's in the waiting room. Okay, so yeah, so that's if you were to look for whatever's in array slot 4, you're going to get I, good to go, right? Same thing if you were going to try to get my array slot 9, for example here, if I update this, my array slot 9 is going to get you K, right? No big mystery there. Well, what would happen here if I said my array slot 23, right?
Out
We
of
don't
bounds
have,
error.
yeah, we don't have a 23, right? So you're going to get that error list index out of bounds. So it's out of bounds, meaning it's beyond the limit of what we actually have in the array. So that's what that first error is there. Now, why you would be getting that? There's all kinds of reasons. We can look at the specific code and we can go into the details. But generally speaking, that just means that it's somewhere in your code is trying to get something that doesn't exist in that array. All right. And like I said, yeah.
This is a nonprofit that I'm volunteering for.
Yeah.
And so I don't recall what the CRLP stands for. I'll have to look that up. But the GAU is a General Accounting Unit. So they're taking, I guess, donations that come in and get automatically sorted out into a general accounting unit if they don't have something specific. So I'm not sure exactly where I'd look to go and correct that error.
So if I had to guess, and this is, again, we could schedule time to go through this in detail, but if I had to speculate here, if this is something you're setting up new, like you just installed it and you're getting it configured? Okay.
Correct.
So imagine, if you will, that you just installed that package brand new. Somewhere in that code, they have a screen that's going to display, some record, some configuration item or something like that, right? If that value didn't exist, or there was no data in the system yet, or no configuration items had been created yet, it might be trying to get even just that first item in the array, and it doesn't exist yet because you haven't populated all the config data yet. So that's what I would have to guess. And as far as that CRLP, if I had to guess what that is, that's probably the namespace of the package that you installed, right? So every package you install has got like a custom identifier on it. That's what I'm guessing that is. Would you do you have that screen up where you can kind of show what you're seeing there?
Yeah,
And if you don't mind, if it's not private and everything else,
no, it's it's a great organization. They're always looking for more volunteers. So yeah, I'll be happy to. Let's see if I can share my screen.
yeah. What's the nonprofit, by the way?
It's Ora Lee Smith Cancer Research Foundation. And I really like their mission because it was founded by a gal who's got a PhD in physics. And
Nice.
so she's using physics principles to attack cancer. And they're
Nice.
getting to the point now where they're ready to start human trials, and they're trying to raise the initial funding to make that possible.
Wow.
So yeah, they aren't using their Salesforce platform. So I want to get it to a place where they can start utilizing it and be able
Yeah.
to take their fundraising to the next level.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let's. Can you show where that error would be?
Good question.
All right. So here's the other thing too. If you're not exactly sure where that was coming up, we don't have to kind of fumble through it right now. But what I can offer, just because it sounds like a cool organization, I would love to help out. Why don't we just schedule some time? I can schedule an hour or two with you and kind of go through it, and we can walk through it together.
I'd love it. Yep.
Yeah.
Please let me know. What do you need to know to reach out to me?
What I will do, because if it's up to me to reach out to you, it might never happen. But if I do, let's see. I'm going to put my email address here, and this goes for everybody. If you have questions, you want to schedule some time, whatever it is, you can reach out to me at that email address, and you can also Slack connect me to that same address as well. Love to connect with everybody and chat if you ever have questions. But yeah, so why don't we shelf this one for right now, and if once you're able to reproduce the error, we could schedule a time and walk through it together. Happy to do so.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, cool. So any other questions? I see Steve, you got a hand up.
Yep. So I ran into something. Well, first of all, we have a client that is they've got Salesforce. We're trying to implement B2B commerce for them, but it looks like their pricing model is such that every client has a unique associated price, negotiated price, for every product.
Interesting. Okay.
And it may be the same client that has 5 different locations. They're going to have 5 different prices, negotiated prices.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about that's not the way they've been handling it. The way they've been handling it is with a custom object.
Yeah.
Okay, because it pushes over from their ERP. The ERP is where they maintain the records.
Yeah.
So then we started talking about, all right, if we do this in price book, because they want to be able to use other Salesforce capabilities.
You need to have like a price book for every customer, right?
Multiple for every customer.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure that one out. But then it came up the question, what's the maximum number of price books that you can have? So I went out and I started Googling, and the only thing that I came up with was number specific to an add-on, which obviously didn't do me any good.
So I might just say that if you start Googling what is the maximum number of price books I can have in Salesforce, I feel like we've already gone down the wrong path, right? I feel like I don't know how sustainable that would be, having 1 to n number of customers, and for every customer potentially having, Q number of price books, right? Let me just ask you this: the number of products that you have that are coming over from the ERP, and then in general the extra products that you would have in Salesforce. How many are there? How many products total? Is it like 10 or is it like hundreds?
No, it's in the hundreds.
Okay.
But most clients don't use that many products. Each client would have probably 10 or so
10
products on their price book.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So now I know there's some suggestions about like CPQ. That could be something that you could explore, but we've had a similar use case in the past where it wasn't really around products. It was around each individual account that somebody might be assigned to would have a specific rate that was agreed upon for different roles. Like, every account would have a project manager agreed upon rate of X, account manager would have an agreed upon rate of Y, that kind of thing. So the way that we handled that, we basically created a custom table on the account, or whatever the object is in your case, but we created a custom table there where you would have, essentially, think of it like this: a lookup to the product, and to keep it simple, the agreed upon rate, right? So if one customer is only using 10 products, when you look at that related list underneath the account, there would be essentially 10 line items in there that link to a product that you have in the system. So in that way, it's not like you're creating separate price books, using native Salesforce functionality. You're just basically on that account itself, you're creating records for each of the relevant products for that account, and then putting in the negotiated price or whatever it is there. You lose some of the functionality, to your point of all the other stuff that's built in the Salesforce around price books and products and quote generation and all that kind of stuff. But there might be some ways to automate around that to use that related table, identify the prices relevant to that account, but then plug that back into products on the record, with the appropriate rates and things like that, or the costs. I don't know. Anybody have any other thoughts on that as far as what they've done in the past? I just feel like going down the thousands of price book route might not be the best approach, but any other thoughts? Yeah, I don't know, Steve. That might be one that, like I said, I think having that related table is nice, because instead of replicating hundreds of products across n number of price books, you can just say these are the 10 products that customer cares about, and here's are the agreed upon rates. And kind of manage it at the account level. That's just a thought, without really knowing all the other details and all the background.
Well, I will say one of the architects did find out the limit on that, and it turns out to be like 3 million or something. So, but
I could has 3 million price books.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Seriously.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, maybe, you know what? Honestly, maybe that is a use case then. Maybe that is something where a dedicated price book per account, maybe that could be a thing. To me, I can see how that could quickly become a management nightmare, keeping track of all that. But
well, that's the other thing, is their sales reps are the only ones that are supposed to have access to that specific price book. So that's another nightmare to try and figure out.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And this is a customer that you're working for, like a client.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's kind of my thought. I feel like the price book route is not good, but now that you tell me the limit's 3 million, you have to think that somebody put some thought into that and said, well, maybe they would want a price book.
Somebody out there's got to have plenty of them.
Yeah.
So.
But I always kind of go back to that. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing. I don't know if there's
do you
other
have any
gotchas.
suggestions on where to look or what search terminology to use? Because, like I said, the architect, I'm not comfortable approaching him on it, but he did find that number and he, put it in Teams. But I'm still frustrated that I can't find that information. Or,
Yeah. So as far as just the limit, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I would do here. So I'll share my screen. So if I was going to go into Google, I'd probably just type in Salesforce limits price book records. Is there a limit to how many? It doesn't really tell you here. So you can have one standard price book and, okay, that doesn't help at all. Let's go back here. Price book limitations. Let's see that. So somebody's asking the questions, but of course, there is no limit. It will add to your storage. I give a link here. Let's see that.
It might be more accurate to say there's no practical limit, but
yeah, I'm sure there's some kind of theoretical limit here. Yeah, and price book is even listed on here. Yeah, honestly, I am not sure. If they don't have a listed limit, then maybe there is no limit, just like any other object. But before I would build a whole thing around this, I'd probably want to have Salesforce confirm that. Yeah, I don't see there's a limit how many price books you can have in SFDC. That sounds like an old school question, SFDC. Price books are picked up by storage. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I can't find anything that says like the limit is X, which makes me think it's like any other kind of data record in Salesforce, where theoretical limit based on your org storage, but otherwise, maybe no set limit on the number of records.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Yeah, tough use case. If I was going that route, I probably wouldn't have even thought about using price books. I would have gone the custom object route, but yeah, I guess you have to dig into a lot more detail there.
Well, and that's what they did. But like I said, they also wanted the capabilities to that the price books would afford them down the road. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good one. And again, apologies we can't come up with like the solution on this call, but when you guys do come up with the solution, I would love to hear how you solve that challenge. That sounds like a good one. All right, cool. So Angela, I see you had a hand up. Maybe. Okay, we'll come back to Angela. Does anybody have any other questions? Anything you guys want to walk through or talk through?
Would it be out of the realm of what we were discussing on this to talk at all about Marketing Cloud stuff?
No, you definitely bring up Marketing Cloud, except that is where my knowledge is going to fall short, but maybe some other folks on the call might have some experience there. So what's your question? Anything in particular?
Yeah, so I've been, I'm really new to writing AMP script. So I've been working a lot with lookups. And I'm struggling with whether or not I can include, like, if I have one. And first off, maybe I should ask, like, does anyone have experience with AMP script? Because I definitely don't want to waste anybody's time. If someone does, great. If not, I'll kind of look elsewhere. But let me know first before I get into it.
So open question, does anybody have experience with AMP scripts? AMP, right?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody having experience with AMP scripts? Does not look like it.
Crickets. Okay, no worries. I appreciate it, like letting me ask the question, but I'll go ahead and wait because I don't want to confuse anyone or take away from the other time.
Hey, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So if you had to distill it down to like a 3-sentence answer, what would one do with an AMP script? What is that?
Yeah, so AMP script is like and if anybody knows more on this than I do, I apologize if I butcher it, but it's essentially like a scripting language that you can use to highly customize your emails going outside of Marketing Cloud. So I would use AMP script to pull different, sorry, I've got my daughter with me here because daycares are closed. Okay, one second.
I want candy as well.
Yeah. If I'm pulling information in via Marketing Cloud connector from my CRM, it's all going to go into various data extensions that I create within Marketing Cloud. So in order to highly customize those emails and say, if I wanted to, I'm in the insurance world, right? So if I wanted to send an email that displays for someone, here's your claim number, here's your carrier, here's their email address, here's your adjuster, and here's our agency contact that you can talk to. All of those different values are being pulled from different data extensions. So AMP script would allow me to bring in merged data from various sources into the one email and display real time.
Gotcha.
So that's what I'm working with it on.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience there. When I have to work with Pardot, I kind of get stressed out to begin with, but that's like a whole nother level above that.
Right.
Yeah, apologies if we can't help you there, but again, just like the other ones here that we've discussed, if you do find a solution and you figure that out, I would love to see maybe have you on just to kind of do a quick demo of that, how that works. That's 100%. Pretty intriguing.
Sure, we'll do. Maybe next week.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right, so I see a few other hands, and we do have a short call today. I have to go pick up my son because of the weather closure today. But Andrew, I see your hand up.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Good.
I had a very general question, right? So like how on the Trailhead, there's like sort of two subpaths for solutions architects. Like one is like a technical architect, and one is actually like a solutions architect, right? Like I've been trying to understand that, like, what is really the difference? Because a lot of the certifications are very similar, right? And I was just trying to open question, just trying to get some understanding on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll open it up. Does anybody have a great answer for that?
I do.
Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
So Andrew, I'm on Team Trailhead. So I can kind of give you an idea of the cert. So solution architect cert is more for like a pre-sales kind of role where you go in and you help the sales executive actually sell the account. And a technical architect is very high level. So if people are making, over $250,000 a year, they're just sitting there talking about SSO and integrations, in Marketing Cloud and Core. So that's going to be someone who's got a lot of experience doing development integrations, maybe 5 to 10 years of that already. So, and it takes a long time to become a TA. A lot of people wash out. It's not. I mean, I've heard that the pass rate's only like 20% or something like that. It's not an easy certification to get. So you want to get that cert after you've got your developer 1, developer 2, platform app builder, all those things like that. And then you can start looking up to application architect. But the technical architect is a role that it's a long time in the making, a long time.
Okay. I understood. So I assume that the technical architect is more for like a company already has a Salesforce solution, and they need somebody, a technical person to work on it. But I guess like a solutions architect, just like you said, it's more like a pre-sale type of thing. Like if somebody is interested in moving their data from one particular platform to another, they would hire like somebody like a solutions architect or something to.
So it's probably this way. So my son's actually a solutions architect at a consulting firm. A lot of our consulting firms. So they'll get a lead on a customer who wants to implement Salesforce. The account executive will go out and talk to the customer, potential customer, and they'll kind of figure out what they're actually looking to do. And then once they get that information, they'll talk to the solutions engineer, and they will actually create a demo org and try to implement what the customer is looking for to show them how things might work.
Right.
So you typically find solutions engineers in consulting companies, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of roles in that. I'll also call them pre-sales engineers, same kind of thing. And a technical architect, those are mostly for consulting also, because it's usually a short engagement, like 3 to 6 months. You'll go in there and you'll solve really, really hard problems. Like they may have 5 Salesforce orgs, and they have SSO in here, and they have integrations with outbound billing departments. So that's more of a short-term technical, super high-level technical thing. And you don't really see that much at companies that, unless you're a huge company that's doing a lot of growing, but a lot of times that is more of a consulting kind of role as well. Sure. At Salesforce, we have a group called CSG, and they're basically consultants. And there's a lot of TAs in CSG, and they just go out and they're pitched like kind of like guys who go out and fight fires. They just drop them in, they do a bunch of work, and they leave. That's kind of what a TA does. I'll go in there and solve really, really hard problems. So
okay, understood. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Oh, you're welcome.
Your time. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Nice.
And I'll give you kudos for the Big Bang Theory in the background too. So
my favorite show. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
Nice. All right, so we got a few minutes left here. Any other questions for any quick hit ones?
Can I ask a basic question?
Sure.
I'm trying to create a platform, an app to track my progress earning badges. And on the record, it's a very basic field question. So for some reason, when I type in the hours I've studied and it's less than 1, even though I've gone into the object itself and given it decimal places of 2 and of 8, on the record, it's rounding it. But when I run a report, it shows the actual decimal. So if it's a half hour, I put 0.5, right? So do you have any recommendations for making it show accurately on the actual record itself, not just in the...
Yeah, I think it should display on the record with the exact decimal places, unless it was like a formula field that you were displaying, a value that somehow you didn't update the formula field to show the decimal places. Would you be able to just share that field in settings or in setup?
Yes.
So we take a look.
Hold up here. Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen okay.
We can see it, yep. All right, so you got 8x2 for the field length, hours spent studying. Okay. Yeah, so let's see it. Can we see it on the page layout then?
Yeah, so if you add it, so I put it in here, I put in like 0.5, right?
Yeah.
And then it's not gonna let me. It's gonna round. So, I guess I just went to the mechanic and the noise it was making went away. So
now, one thing to consider, if you had created that field initially and you didn't have the decimal place, you just had like 8 and 0 for the decimal places, and then you came back in here and looked at it, you're like, oh my God, I need that decimal places, and you fixed it, and then you came back here, it might have been cached, so maybe you were looking at the screen and just hadn't got that updated metadata to display correctly yet. So maybe a few refreshes and that'll that's what took care of it. But
yeah, it looks like I just need to show it to all of you guys first.
Yeah, on that same note, Katrina, if you've actually hold the shift button down and hit refresh, it'll force a cache because we're actually caching Lightning web pages in there. So you'll see a lot of times you'll make a change like it's not working. So hit that shift key and hit refresh, and that should force a new cache refresh.
Okay, so I learned something new today. Shift refresh, Shift F5, that'll do it. What I've been doing, and I sound like an idiot now when I say this, but if you hit the little astro circle icon in the top right and change it from like comfy to compact and back and forth, that forces the refresh as well. But Shift F5 is a lot cooler than switching back and forth between that. So
thanks, Jeff. Cool kids are using, Bill. Cool kids use Shift F5.
I appreciate that. Someday I will be in the group of cool kids. All right, so unfortunately, I do have to run. Early day today, we have a winter storm advisory, ice or something, so they're closing all the schools early, so I got to go pick up my son. So we're going to have to unfortunately end the call here. But what I will say is that if you do have any kind of questions that we didn't get to today, there is a Military Trailblazer Office Hours group on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to ask questions and make sure that I can see it and I can answer questions. The other way, if you joined late and you didn't see this, I'll put it here in the chat again. But you can email me directly if you have questions. I'd be happy to help you. You can send a Slack Connect request to that same address, and we can, connect that way. But best way is probably LinkedIn, because not only do I watch that, but there's a whole bunch of other folks that watch that as well. So unfortunately, like I said, I have to drop. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, a great weekend, and hope to see you all next week.
Thanks for your work, Bill.
Yep. See you guys.